Welp, it's official. The ponies are killing each other again. I'm sure we've all seen the recent MLP infection trend on TikTok and other platforms, but something bigger has been going on beyond that. MLP horror as a genre is coming back. And if you might be thinking to yourself, MLP horror? Yes, really. MLP creepypastas made up a good chunk of the My Little Pony fandom's early zeitgeist and were a big part of the things I remember from being 9 and going a little too far down the YouTube recommendations pie. Creepypastas, darkly themed fanfictions, really shockingly well done gore animations. Recently, these things have been making a return, or at least have been reimagined in ways that feel more modern. You've seen the originals, so it's time for the remake. This is the return of My Little Pony creepypastas. I remember talking to a friend a while back, and they brought up, oh yeah, I've been seeing MLP gore slideshows on my TikTok For You page. You know, I didn't have TikTok on my phone at the time. I didn't give it too much thought. And suddenly it's everywhere. My Little Pony infection AUs. What people will do is take the world of MLP and write a story wherein some scary virus takes over, and all hope is lost and the ponies are struggling to survive, and sometimes they're mutated into these spooky, scary zombie creatures. The two types of videos I've seen are these character bios, wherein they tell you if a character is infected or not, their energy, hunger levels, and the other are the actual stories. Both of them often use the slideshow feature on TikTok, but other times they do whole little animations. This one artist, who simply goes by Chloe, does these really neat, like Trevor Henderson mutant pony designs. The stories are kind of like those MLP audio dramas or grimdark fanfics I've talked about, except usually with just text. A lot of them, from what I've seen, use these little Undertale character noises for when they talk. Now, these are alternate universes, AUs. Anybody can make their own out of anything, so you get a lot of variations in the type of disease. It can be a standard zombie apocalypse scenario, or if you want, something with more spice. I asked on Twitter, oh sorry, it's not called Twitter anymore, it's called Elon Musk's super awesome hardcore clubhouse, no icky girls or grownups allowed. I asked on there what this whole thing was about, and someone linked me this AU someone did, where all the Pegasi get a disease that makes them go rabid and fly up into the air and block out the sun. This one freaks me out. They did their job right. And what I mean when I bring that one up is that they can get pretty creative. But let us not forget how many episodes there are in MLP where there's some illness that the characters have, or some kind of horror setting or concepts. People have been pulling from those left and right. There's even that one cookie zombie prank episode, you know they had to pull from that. But what was the first? Where did this thing start? Well, thanks to the geniuses over at the TikTok algorithm department, I don't know. I can't find out. I have multiple sources telling me which one came first, but from my research, I've narrowed it down to two. Pestraubia by the user Oshushat came out in December and was cited in another video as the first, so I'll take their word for it. If we are to believe this was the first, then it set the groundwork for a lot of others, with how they display all these character statistics and explanations of the disease and what it does to the ponies. The story really is told through this and random first-hand accounts, kind of like some notebook you'd pick up in a Resident Evil game. A comment on Elon Musk's super awesome hardcore clubhouse, no icky girls or grownups allowed, pointed me to the Spanish series called My Little Worms, which apparently originated the trend as well. It also has an English translation, so I gave that a look. It's a lot different than Pestraubia in how it focuses on specific characters going through a series of events. It starts out with Twilight trying to find a cure. You see, Fluttershy and Spike already have the My Little Worms, and Pinkie Pie and Rarity are clearly very far gone. Twilight locks herself in a cell, while the worms eat away at her and Spike. The part with her gets into like Sweet Apple Massacre territory. In general, this whole thing is really gross. I don't like thinking about the ponies getting eaten from the inside out by worms, and some of the descriptions paint a nasty picture. There's even one throwaway line about how Shining Armor has passed on and Cadence. Whoa! The TikTok search algorithm isn't reliable enough to find the other most popular ones, but I've seen a lot of scattered videos and fan art. Also, since this is TikTok, half the things that come up in the searches aren't even the infection videos themselves. It'll be people with their cameras pointed at their face, like me watching the MLP infection videos. Yeah. You know, that should be me, but you're clogging up the results. Get out of here. What I think makes these videos, this fan art, this whole trend so interesting is how this feels like a combination of old and new. We've all seen My Little Pony characters in these horror scenarios, Cupcakes, Rainbow Factory, The Cough comes to mind. That one is suspiciously similar. I look at these and I see those classic stories, again mainly The Cough, updated to our modern internet horror landscape, or internet media really. The infected pony designs share the same distorted features that we associate with analog horror, and I also like to think these pull from trauma core or like liminal space stuff. The PNGs on these backgrounds really give me that feeling. And I think I should mention, characters being scared of a virus or infection sounds very early 2020s. Now these are really popular, and to some people that means MLP is making some sort of comeback. I didn't expect it like this, but I guess it's gone viral again. But that's not the only thing I've seen. I look at my YouTube recommended and I feel like cicadas are coming out of the ground after 30 years again. All these MLP horror things are coming back. Beyond the infection videos.
I can't eat all these apples.
Did you know they made a sequel to Apple Sleep Experiment? That's right. Starting from Halloween of last year and still ongoing, another Apple Sleep Experiment takes place 7 years after the original. For those who don't remember, the original had AJ working herself to the bone after taking a mysterious stay-up-late potion from Twilight. The potion has some unintended side effects and ooh, bunch of ponies are dead and Applejack is a monster. It had a pretty interesting ending where we're left to contemplate if the whole thing was in Applejack's head or if Twilight is just trying to gaslight her. The sequel has that same sort of idea. I didn't realize this, but looking at the comments, a lot of people have this idea that Applejack never broke out of prison and that the events of the sequel are just in the main six's imagination. Early on in the story, they let us know how sleep deprived they've all been preparing for this festival, so you never know. The festival itself is this commemoration of the original massacre, which is so weird. I'm not sure that's the kind of thing you turn into a standard pony party with cupcakes and streamers. Could you imagine if they did that in the US? I mean, what's Thanksgiving? This felt like some weird horror movie sequel. The commemoration of the original victims, the killer breaking out to do it again, going one by one, and these very elaborate confrontation and kill scenes. The art is really great. This one's recent, so you get some really professional looking pieces, and the artists who I've seen before have improved a ton. This is part of the whole My Little Pony narration audio drama ring. The Rarity from Daughter of Discord isn't everything. She's like the Jim Cummings of MLP voiceovers. The Applejack voice was a little too cartoonish to take seriously, and the narration sounds like AI at points, the way they'll use the exact same inflection. That being said, what's cool about the voices is that sometimes they'll switch up the narrator to show how the characters are losing their sanity, or how the evil Applejack is taking over everyone's mind. Also, some interesting visual effects. Apple Sleep Experiment 2 might not have brought back MLP horror single-handedly, but it's a worthy successor to the original. I don't think it stands on its own enough, and the story does fall into that repetitive slasher formula. Some other complaints all these audio dramas share, blah blah blah, they use the phrase held aloft way too much, like 5 times, and I start to notice it. Okay, He-Man. Hopefully we can see some sequels to other well-known fics in the future. I say that like there aren't a million fake cupcake sequels. But what about cupcakes? What about evil Pinkie Pie?
Big, scary, and pink!
Now, what I'm about to share is a hot scoop. I know the general internet public has caught on to the infection thing, but there have been so many Mr. Davy remakes in the past few weeks I've seen. If you look up Smile HD or Cupcakes on YouTube now, you won't just find the original, but tons of people putting their own spin on it, reanimating it with different characters. Dude, the Care Bears version, Happy Tree Friends, South Park, most likely tons of OCs. I see it in a similar way to the infection thing, where people do their own version of some original concept. Although this one is more putting characters into a template rather than building a story around something. The problem with these is that none of them can even hold a candle to the original, I'm sorry. There's a reason so many people have the theory that the original artist was some kind of show animator, because everything in Smile HD is top notch. I watched it again and I'm not even lying, I think it's one of the best executed pieces of MLP fan content, period. It looks like it came from a studio. The backgrounds, the boarding, the poses, the way the action is choreographed and synced to the music perfectly, the rigging and frame-by-frame animation, the special effects. Watching this is like watching an old Disney movie from the 40s and realizing that there's never going to be anything like this again. Not in your lifetime, not never. So comparing anything to it that tries to stay close is going to make it look bad, but that's not to say there isn't an incredible amount of talent going in. Animating a character punching another character's head so hard that it flies off and hits the ground. It still takes effort. Unusual Yikes did the Care Bears one, but they also have this really great spin on Cupcakes HD, and a really random one I love with Pinkie Pie and Johnny Test. Please keep making these. I want to see Derpy Gets Pranked remade. Nobody likes Derpy Gets Pranked, I guess. Also, to any animators in my audience, I haven't seen anyone redo Smile HD with the LPS 2012 characters. Just a thought. I also did see a few Cupcakes remakes, but Smile HD is clearly more popular. So we've gone through 3 spooky, scary horror things today, and it's clear that MLP horror is back on the minds of people. It's in every corner of the fandom. Animators, the TikTok crowd, classic fanfic writers. But is it a good thing? A lot of people, apparently, were traumatized by the original wave of MLP creepypastas and edgy animations, and to think it's starting up again might not be the best thing for, you know, this new generation. I don't know if kids seriously like MLP anymore or if it's as popular as it was in 2012, but I get the feeling that I'm gonna be 30 and hearing about the next wave of people who got traumatized by these as kids, you know, at least it's fiction, disturbing horror fiction, but it's not, you know, weird in any way, or promoting dangerous actions or ideas. I could believe that in the case a very small child sees these, they could get irrationally scared of parasites and like refuse to eat or go outside. But that's a very specific thing, and I'm not waiting for it to happen. And you know what? As much as I and other people like to say, this is the return of classic MLP creepypastas, this really is its own thing. The MLP infection community is a term I've seen seriously used. This is bigger than cupcakes, and for all we know, it could get bigger. It could spread.